Shehu Aliyu Shagari, do solemnly swear
that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
to the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
to the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
In the year 1979, Nigeria was at a pivotal moment. The military, after 13 years in power, was handing the country back to civilians, and a new era of democracy was about to begin. The nation, buoyed by the oil boom, was full of hope. At the center of this new beginning was a man named Shehu Aliyu Shagari, a soft-spoken, mild-mannered former school teacher from Sokoto. The question of why Shagari became president is complex. While he was a seasoned public servant of no mean repute, some political observers, like the late historian Dr. Bala Usman, argued that the National Party of Nigeria (NPN) deliberately chose a compromise candidate. He added that they were not looking for a revolutionary, but someone who would not disrupt the existing power structures in the country. Shagari, with his humble and gentle demeanor, was a perfect fit for this role. On October 1, 1979, Shehu Shagari was sworn in as Nigeria's first elected executive president. He was the product of a political system that was both hopeful and deeply entrenched in its old ways. But let's rewind. Let's flip the pages back to the very first chapter of this story. How did it all start? Where, when, and why is this story a critical part of Nigeria's history? Who even was Shehu Shagari? Shehu Aliyu Shagari was born on February 25, 1925 in Shagari village, Sokoto State. His father Aliyu Shagari was the village head. Shagari's journey was rooted in education and public service. He began his education at a Quranic school before attending Sokoto Middle School and later Kaduna College, now Barewa College, where he trained to become a teacher. He worked as a science teacher for several years, a profession that shaped his calm and methodical approach to life. His political career began in 1951 when he was elected to the House of Representatives in Lagos, which served as the capital of Nigeria at the time. He held various ministerial positions before and after Nigeria's independence, including Minister of Economic Development, Minister of Works, and Minister of Finance. This extensive experience made him a well-known figure in Nigerian politics. Shehu Shagari's presidency was marked by significant policy initiatives, particularly in agriculture, housing, and education. In 1980, Shagari launched the Green Revolution Program, a major agricultural initiative aimed at modernizing farming and making Nigeria self-sufficient in food production. The program sought to reduce food imports by providing farmers with improved seeds, fertilizers, and modern farming techniques. His administration also embarked on an ambitious housing program, aiming to build 200,000 housing units across the country to provide affordable homes for low-income citizens. He also pursued major infrastructure projects, including roads and bridges across the country. One of the key achievements of his presidency was the establishment of new federal universities. This included the Federal University of Technology Owerri, FUTO, in 1980, the Federal University of Technology Akure in 1981, and the Federal University of Technology Yola, also in 1981. These institutions expanded access to higher education and were part of a broader push to develop a skilled workforce for the country. However, the immense oil wealth at the time that fueled these projects also became a source of significant trouble for the country. By 1979, Nigeria's oil revenues were soaring from approximately 5.3 billion naira in 1975 to a peak of over 26 billion naira by 1980. With that kind of money, Nigeria could have transformed itself into an African powerhouse. Better schools, world-class infrastructure, jobs, for millions of his citizens. But instead, the billions vanished. This influx of cash brought with it a culture of excess and corruption in the country. One of the most prominent scandals involved the importation of rice. The government's import license system was widely criticized for being corrupt, with licenses allegedly given to political associates who hoarded the commodity, causing artificial scarcity and price hikes. While Shehu Shagari himself was not accused of personal involvement in corruption, his administration was seen as failing to curb the excesses of his political allies. The infamous statement by his transport minister at the time, Umaru Dikko, about Nigerians not being hungry became a symbol of the government's perceived detachment from the public's suffering. Meanwhile, unemployment soared, inflation hit double digits, and Nigeria began borrowing billions from foreign creditors, paving the way for what would become decades of economic slavery to the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. While claims of $16 billion in unaccounted for oil revenues have been widely cited, they are, however, difficult to verify with a single conclusive report. However, numerous audit reports and public critiques from the time highlighted significant financial mismanagement, inflated contract costs, and a lack of accountability within government agencies. The sheer scale of the West became a defining feature of the era. The economic mismanagement led to Nigeria borrowing heavily from international lenders. Nigeria's external debt grew from around $7 billion in 1979 to over $18 billion by the end of Shagari's term, setting the stage for future economic challenges. The economic struggles and widespread public perception of corruption severely undermined the government's credibility. This was further compounded by the widely condemned 1983 general elections, which were marred by allegations of widespread rigging and violence. The elections were seen as deeply flawed. Reports from observers and the media documented widespread fraud, including ballot box snatching and the manipulation of results. The outcome sparked violent protests in several states, leading to loss of lives and a breakdown of law and order in most of the country. But then, in the early hours of December 31, 1983, something happened. A military coup led by senior military officers such as Sani Abacha, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, Joshua Dogon Yaro, David Mark, Sambo Dasuki and others overthrew the civilian government of Shehu Shagari and brought on board Major General Muhammadu Buhari as Nigeria's new military head of state. The coup leaders cited the government's gross mismanagement and rampant corruption as the main reasons for their takeover. The coup was largely welcomed by a frustrated populace desperate for change in the country. The military accused Shagari's government of looting over 3 billion naira in public funds, turning a blind eye to Umaru Dikko's rice racket, and allowing economic sabotage that left Nigeria bankrupt. The coup marked the end of Nigeria's Second Republic. The intervention was supposed to, in quotes, clean up corruption, but instead, it plunged Nigeria into decades of military dictatorship and set the stage for even worse economic ruin. But here is the thing: was Shehu Shagari really the villain, or just a weak president surrounded by wolves? Some historians argue that Shagari wasn't personally corrupt, but was controlled by his party's godfathers and powerful people around him who had trapped him in a system designed for failure. Following the coup, Shehu Shagari was placed under house arrest by the military. He was initially detained for several months before being released, though he was banned from participating in politics. He largely retired from public life, living a quiet life in Sokoto. Unlike some of his political contemporaries, he was never convicted of personal corruption. Shehu Shagari died on December 28, 2018, at the age of 93 at the National Hospital, Abuja. Shehu Shagari's legacy is complex and debated. He is often seen as a good man who was overwhelmed by a corrupt and broken system. His presidency came to symbolize the failure of Nigeria's Second Republic. The immense corruption and political violence that defined his tenure created a deep-seated public mistrust in democratic institutions, a mistrust that persists till today. Supporters argue that he was not personally corrupt and that his gentle nature was ill-suited for the cutthroat world of Nigerian politics. They believe that he wasn't the mastermind of the corruption, but rather that he was its prisoner. That he was a man of integrity who was simply outmaneuvered by powerful and ruthless political forces within his own political party and around him in the presidency. But to many others, he was complicit in silence because as president, the buck stops on his table. Shagari will be remembered for several reasons for many years to come. Thanks for watching this edition of Back in History, and do remember to subscribe to the channel or follow the page for regular notification on every new video. I am your friend and host, Ekemini Udim, wishing you the best in all you do.